So, welcome to lecture number 32, file handling. So, in the last class we had seen writing a file in Java, right. So, now what we can do, we will do reading from a file in Java, right. So, like what we have done in C++, we are reading line by line, and then what we are doing, we are writing in the console, correct. The same thing we will do here. So, here we have to use the package, right, IO, right, input output, file reader, right, you have buffered reader and then IO exception. So, that means I am going to use try, throw and catch. So, now your read from file is the driver class, because you have main under this. So, now I use try, like exactly what we have done in the case of writing. So, try, right. So, the reader is the object under the class buffered reader. So, you are allocating a memory, right, with the constructor buffered reader, right. So, buffered reader, if you look, so you will have one function, right. So, this is nothing but the constructor. So, constructor you have new file reader example.txt, right. So, slightly a complicated syntax, but you will understand, right. Under buffered reader constructor you have one function. So, we use new again, right. So, file reader, correct. So, file reader example.txt. Okay. So, now, so in fact you can see you have imported file reader, correct. So, under file reader this will be the constructor, right, file reader class, and here you have file reader constructor. So, that means you are going to handle example.txt. So, I have string line, line is a variable, exactly what we have done in the case of C++, we are going to Java, slightly a complicated syntax, right, because you have to use all the keywords, right, the file reader, buffered reader, etc. Now, while line is equal to, right, line is a variable, in C++ it was very simple, right. Now, the reader will invoke, the reader object will invoke read line function, right. So, read line. So, that means when it is invoking and then you are assigning that in line, for example, assume that you are reading the first line, right, welcome, the example.txt, the first line is welcome, right, which is not equal to null, right, which is not equal to null. Assume that only one line is there, it is not null. So, it is going and printing system.out.println, I am printing the line, right. So, whatever you are reading in the line, you are storing in or copying in line, line is the variable under string. So, if it is not equal to null, that means assume that I have the first word, right, or first line, hello, welcome to IIT Roorkee, right. If I am able to read that, that is not equal to null, right. When it is not equal to null, system.out.println line. So, that particular line will be printed. In fact, in C++ we have not equal to null, it is understood, right. Even if when I put like this, while line equal to reader dot read line, which is equivalent to not equal to null, right. So, that means if I am able to read the first line, right, assume that there is only one line. So, that particular line will be printed, that is your syntax of line number 12, system.out.println, that particular line will be printed. Assume that second line I do not have anything, right. So, that means it is equal to null. So, it will come out of the while loop, right. So, once it is coming out of the while loop, you have to do reader close. Otherwise, if I am not able to access the file or open the file example.txt, correct. So, it has to give the exception and the exception will be caught, and right, he is the exception under IO exception. So, he will invoke print stack trace. So, that means you are not able to, it is a inbuilt function, right, inbuilt method, correct. So, it is not able to access. So, therefore, right, so you cannot do anything with example.txt, alright. So, where you can see the example, we will see an example and then again I will just explain few things, right. So, we will go to Java and we will see the next example, right, read from file. So, when I run the code, same whatever I explain. So, in fact, if you remember, we had this file, maybe we will modify the file, just to open this example.java, example underscore Java, we have put it in file handling, here it is, yes. So, what we can do, we will open example underscore Java. So, now I will do line by line, well, writing welcome to file handling in Java, or let us have only one line, okay, only one line now, maybe we will see, we have program, alright, there we will have the multiple lines also. So, writing file save, let us save this file, I saved it, okay. So, now what we can do, I have only one line writing, right. So, now we will again run the code, run, fine. So, you can see, all right, in the console we have the output. So, the output is nothing but writing, right, we are getting writing, we have only one line. So, that means while line equal to reader dot read line. If you look at line number 12, the object reader which is invoking read line function, right, read line method, inbuilt method. So, writing is only one word or one line. So, it can able to read and then it is storing in line, that is the meaning. In fact, we have used the get line in C++. So, that means it is copying, right. So, the read line it is copying into line which is not null. The first line I am able to read, that means it is not null. So, now line number 13 system dot out dot println line. So, line here in this case line is equal to writing with the exclamatory mark, right. So, that is being printed. So, second line you do not have anything, null. So, when it is null it is coming out of the while loop and then it is closing, right, it is closing the file, right. Exactly, I mean if you want to read something in a file, what will you do? You open the file, read it and then close the file in the general case. Similarly, you have to do that, all right. So, here you have the file reader, all right, it is trying to open the file. If he is not able to open the file, then there will be exception, all right. So, example.txt and then after opening the file there is one line. So, that line is being read and then it is being stored in line, right. So, reader is invoking read line function, right, read line method, inbuilt method, writing is there with exclamatory mark. So, that is not null which will be stored in line and then you are printing the line. So, in the console you can see the output, all right. So, this is how the reading from a file in Java is working. Last class we had seen writing and here we have started with reading from a file in Java. So, here the file reader is nothing but a class, all right. So, the file reader is nothing but a class and then the file has, let us say, character data, all right. The file has the character data and then you have seen buffered reader, that is also a class. Under buffered reader you have an object reader, all right. So, then what is happening when you are creating an object reader under buffered reader? So, you have creating a memory, new dynamic memory where you have the constructor buffered reader. So, under this you have another constructor file reader because file reader is a class. So, which is handling example.txt, all right. So, which is handling example.txt. Then we had seen the example, right. So, if it is not able to open, right, if it is not able to access, then there will be exception, correct. So, the exception will be thrown and it will be caught in line number 15 and then it will invoke, all right. So, that means, all right, I mean print stack trace. So, that means a printing stack trace. So, that means it will say not able to access the file, something like that, all right. So, now we can able to access the file and then we can able to read only one line we had seen and that line we are able to print also. So, now we will check if a file exists in C++ or not. We will see the simple C++ code, again I am going back to C++, all right. So, let us include f stream, the file stream, and then include IO stream. Now, we have a file, right, which is an object under if stream class, correct. So, which is handling, the file is handling example underscore cpp.txt, it is like a constructor, correct. So, one argument, the argument is nothing but it has to handle example underscore cpp.txt. If file, that means if the file exists, it is going to print file exists, correct. Otherwise, if the file does not exist, so this is what I kept on telling, right. We have used a try throw catch in both, I think C++ and in Java, and particularly in Java, right. Assume that the file does not exist, right, and then you want to read something from the file. If the file itself does not exist, so then it will throw the exception. So, now here in this program what we are doing, we are checking whether the file exists or not, correct. So, if file, so that means if the file exists, right, that is true. If file, right, that is true, then it will print file exists, otherwise it will throw file does not exist, it will tell file does not exist. So, simple program, right. So, let us go back to the C++ console and assume that we have example underscore cpp.txt, just check, all right. So, here we have example underscore c, yeah we have, right. One we will do with the file, another one we will delete it and we will see, we will run the code, right. So, here you see it is giving the output file exists, file is there. So, therefore, we are getting file exists. So, now press any key to continue. So, now what we will do, we will delete it, shift delete, right. So, the file is not there, correct. So, now what we will do, again we will run the code, execute, run the code, and you can see that the output shows file does not exist, correct. So, I hope it is clear. It is a simple program, but we are slightly going into the advanced level, whether in that particular directory the file exists or not. So, one we had seen, we had a file, right, and then we open, in fact we have seen the file exists, right, then we delete it. So, now the file does not exist, in fact we had seen both the output, right, one with file exists. So, that means file exists output we got, another one we deleted. So, that means no file is there. So, we got the output file does not exist. I hope it is clear now, right. So, here we have header file include fstream, all right. So, this has both input and output, input file stream and as well as output file stream, correct. And then you have object name file, the object name file is under if stream, right. So, if the file already exists, correct. So, then it is able to open, right. So, that is what if file, correct, the line number 5, it can be able to access the file or open the file. So, therefore, we got initially, if you recall, we got file exists, right. Otherwise, assume that there is no file at all, correct. So, you can do the same thing in the previous program that we have written try throw catch, right. So, what you can do, one you can try with the file. Let us assume you have the words, you have the lines, string of lines, right, and then you read it, it will work. Now, your exception should be thrown, then what you do, you delete that file, right, and then you can run the code. So, now this program will help you for the previous programs, right. Suppose you are going to see the usage of that exception, delete the file and see, right, you cannot able to access. So, then it will throw the exception. So, here in this case we are handling without exception. So, here there is no file at all, the file does not exist. So, if file will be false, going to else part in line number 7 and file does not exist will be printed, right. So, both the cases we had seen. So, this is how we checked if a file exists in C++. Similarly, we can try it in Java, right. So, here we are including input output file, right, Java input output package dot file, and you have a public class file check, right, which is a driver class, and then you have main program. So, here I have created an object small f file under the class file, right. The dynamic memory will be allocated with the constructor file, and then you have one argument constructor example.txt. So, that means file is having access with this example.txt. Let us assume the same thing we will do, right. Assume that example.txt exists, right. So, let us assume in that directory example.txt is available. If it is available, file exists will be printed, right, in line number 7. If it does not exist, file does not exist will be printed. It is not very difficult code, all right. So, whatever we have done in C++, you can extend over here, and then you try to print either file exists or file does not exist. So, if it is available in the directory, file exists will be printed. If it does not available, file does not exist will be printed. So, go to Java console, all right. So, here you go, the class file check, correct, line number 4, and then you have main. Here what we are doing, example underscore java dot txt. We will see in the directory whether the file is there or not. Yes, it is there, example underscore java dot txt. Can we open this? Yes, you are seeing writing, okay. So, it is there. If it is there, let us run the code. Yes, file exists. You can see the output file exists. So, we can see the file and it is saying that file exists. So, now similarly what we are going to do, we will delete the file, all right. So, here we are deleting, file does not exist now. So, again we will run the code, all right. So, it is saying file does not exist. Is it clear now? So, both C++ and Java we had seen. So, one case what we have done, the file was there, and then it was printing file exists. Then we deleted it and then right. So, if you look at line number 7, if file exists function, right, file is invoking exist function, right, exist method. If it is existing, that means in the directory if the file is there, in fact we had seen file exists, and then what we have done, deleted. So, deleted means it does not exist. So, that will be false, false means it will go to line number 10 and then we have got the print file does not exist, correct. I hope it is clear for everyone, right. So, in the case of Java, so what we have done, so we have used input output package with file, right, the file handling. So, here you have the method calls exists, alright. So, when I want to use exists, I have to use the file, right, I have to use the file class. So, the file class which has several methods, right, and then I want to check whether the file exists or not. So, I have to use the method called exists, right. So, we had seen both the cases. In the directory file was there. So, that means if it exists means in this particular line it is true, right. When file is invoking exists, line number 6, that will be true, right, assume that it is available in the directory. So, then we have got file exists output. If it is not available, then file dot exists, right, file is invoking exists, it will be false. So, false means line number 9 you will get the output file does not exist, right. So, that means when I want to access this exist file, I need this java.io.file, right. So, this is how you can handle. So, reading, writing and whether the file exists or not, both Java and C++ so far we have seen. Yeah. So, this almost we have already done, right. So, one of the cases we have not put the new line, I think it is in Java, but what we are doing now, so again the writing multiple lines. If you want to write multiple lines to a file in C++, right, I include file stream, go to the main program and I have my file object whose class is OFStream, output file stream, and then you have the constructor, that means my file is accessing with example.txt, alright. If my file dot is open, if this is true, if it is able to open, if my file object can able to write, my file is invoking is open, if it is true, alright, then the following line. So, it is reading, right, my file line 1 new line, right, it is going to write. So, it is going to write line 1, alright. So, then it is going to write line 2, then the next line it will be line 3 and then there will be empty, right, because you are going to write only 3 lines. In fact, we had seen my file writing, if you recall only one line we have written, and then in fact we had seen some more example also, put some more hello world, welcome to IIT Roorkee, right. So, here I put slash new line, alright. So, that means it will open, if I am able to open example.txt. So, there we are going to write line 1, next line line 2, third line line 3. So, once it is being done, we are going to close, right, my file will invoke close. So, the file example.txt will be closed. We will see this example, alright. So, same. So, example underscore cpp.txt, alright. So, let us run the code, yeah. So, the program is running successfully and if I open, yes, you can see the output line 1, next line line 2 and line 3, right. So, what we can do, we can change line 3 to, let us say, welcome to file handling. Instead of line 3, let us say welcome to file handling in C++, welcome to file handling in C++, good. So, when we write this, now I will run the code. Earlier line 3 was there, fine, it will be overwritten. I will execute the program, run the program, compile and run. Yes, it is running successfully, good. Now, if you look at the output, I open it, yes, I see line 1, line 2 and the third line you can see welcome to file handling in C++, okay. So, this is how we can write multiple lines. I hope you are slowly familiarizing with the file concept in both C++ and Java, alright. So, here what is happening, the if statement is checking is open. So, if it is able to open, that means it is true, correct, and then it is writing line 1, line 2, line 3. So, what you are doing, suppose I am asking you to write this, assume that you do not know C++, I am asking you to write, open the notepad, write this. So, what will you do? You will open the notepad, open, right. So, that is what it is exactly doing. Line number 4, my file is invoking is underscore open. So, if it is able to open, correct. So, example.txt, if it is able to open, well and good. So, then in that file, example.txt file, I will write line 1, line 2 and line 3, or we have done welcome to file handling in C++, right, and then you have to close this. My file should invoke close, so that this file, this example.txt contains line 1, line 2 and maybe line 3, in this example line 3. In the one we had seen, the last line is welcome to file handling in C++. So, we can able to write, right. So, if it is true, we can able to write, and then you have to do the close. Since you can see the new line is appearing. In Java we had seen, alright, without new line, right. We have also written multiple lines without new line, if you recall, right. So, then it is printing in the same line. Now, here in this case we have /n. So, we are getting the output, and then, right. So, in fact, when you open the file, we have got line 1, line 2 and line 3, and once it is over, right, the file should be closed. That means, my file should invoke close. So, it will be closed, right. So, what we can do in the next class, we will see how to append to a file in C++. So, this particular program we will see in the next class. So, what we have done so far, reading, writing and whether the file exists or not, right. So, these important programs we had seen. In fact, what you can do based on the examples that I had shown, you can practice it, alright. So, in fact, you can think of manipulating the values, that also we will see. Suppose you are reading the integers 10 and 5, alright. Now, next line I want to have the multiplication, you can write now multiplication of 10 and 5, next line you have to get the answer 50, alright. So, these things you can try. Now, you know how to read the file, how to write the file, alright, how to check whether the file exists or not. So, these whatever we have studied, alright, with the help of C in and C out. So, now hereafter we can think of, alright, suppose I am reading a file, from the file, so can I do certain manipulations, can I do certain mathematical calculations, or can I write the lines, whatever the lines are appearing. So, can I write it in the console. So, that means we know how to handle the file. So, in the next class, so we will do appending to a file in C++. So, with this I am concluding today's lecture. Thank you.